everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Asian Blokes Podcast, a podcast where we talk about Asian pop culture, film, TV shows, comic books, anime, music, food, video games, whatever we're feeling at the time, really. My name is Dan with H. With me, as always, my co-host Tavi. Happy spooky season, Tavi. What's going on?
It's a lovely day outside for a lovely spooky season.
It's a lovely day.
It is a lovely day for a very lovely topic, which requires three people today. So we've got a guest. Would you like to introduce our guest, Dan?
Yeah, three people for three extremes. Welcome to the show, Kyle of the What Kind of Asian Are You podcast. Hi, Kyle.
Hi, how are you guys doing? Happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. I'm doing fine. How are you doing, Tavi?
Swell, man. I'm swell. And we love having guests on the show. So
we do love having guests. And thank you for joining us to talk about this movie in particular. It's a little bit of an extreme movie, as the title suggests. Three extremes. It's an anthology film, which we will get to eventually. But before we get to the movie, whenever we have a guest on the show, we do like to talk about the guest a bit. First talking about your journey in podcasting, and then talking about your experience with pop culture and media growing up, particularly around Asian cinema, since that's our whole deal. Kyle, could you please tell us, how did you get started podcasting? And for our listeners, like what is your podcast all about?
For sure. First off, thank you for this opportunity to come on and talk with you guys and to discuss Asian cinema. I was blessed and honored to have you guys on my podcast as well. And your episode with my podcast will be out the same week, I hope. It should be. But anyways, I'll just start off with a short introduction of myself and then go into the podcast. So like you guys mentioned, my name is Kyle. I am a Chinese Canadian from Hong Kong originally, and then moved to Canada when I was a young boy. And then now I live in Singapore permanently with my family, with two kids. And I started this podcast called What Kind of Asian Are You podcast, a podcast featuring conversations about being Asian. So it's essentially just me talking to Asians on the internet that are doing cool things. And they're just telling me their stories about doing what they love and what they're passionate about. And in between, it's all about culture, identity, perspectives, and all that. And it really started off by me being bored during the pandemic and wanting to do something of a passion project to keep my mind off things. And I've been seeing so many podcasts in that space at that time where I was like, I could do it as well. And especially for the theme of like Asian identity, Asian diaspora, I feel like there's a lack of representation there. So that's why I kind of started this journey of podcasting, and it's been already 5+ years.
Yeah, nice. I mean, like you said, we had the opportunity to jump on your show as well. And of course, I'll put links in the description of this episode if people want to go check that out. But we had a great time talking about our experience. Yeah.
I mean, like, to hearing it.
It's one of those things where when you think about your own story, it doesn't really seem that interesting. But when you're like conversing with a group of, like-minded people, and, you kind of get into the nitty-gritty, it's very interesting to see like how aligned our stories are, but also how diverse the stories are as well.
Yeah, it's also interesting because sometimes, like, when I sort of think about my life story, I think, it's not really that interesting. It's just Asian dude grew up in Oz, but it's kind of cool to actually have, I guess, the platform or the opportunity to talk about how we were brought up. And yeah, everyone's story is unique, and that translates into film. It can be good or bad, but who knows?
And you did let us spin our wheels about Asian media on your podcast as well, and let us share our hot takes. So that was a lot of fun. But I would like to hear about your experience with media growing up, specifically like Asian cinema, I guess. What kind of TV shows and movies did you grow up on?
Yeah, for sure. And like I mentioned, I'm like a Chinese Canadian. So I originally was from Hong Kong. I was born there, and then I immigrated to Canada when I was about 5. And I think my experience with Asian media as a whole is somewhat similar to a lot of people, but also not so much in the fact that I still pretty much kept in tune with like Asian cinema or Asian media a lot more than I think a lot of other Asian diaspora probably would, because I think it's just what I was grew around. Like my parents still consume Asian media, especially like Hong Kong cinema, Hong Kong TV, Hong Kong music, that sort of thing. So I grew up with it. So it's not a situation where I moved to Canada and then all I had was white media or something like that, which some people do have experience where like they get back to Asian cinema later on in life through various causes. But for me, it's like, it's part of my life since I was young. And the specific kind of Asian media or cinema that I was in tune with as I was growing up was mainly Cantonese ones and some Taiwanese and also mainland China ones. And of course, there's always the Japanese ones and also Korean ones, just because of the fact that, Japanese and Korean cinema or media as a whole was still quite popular even back in the day for, all throughout East Asia. So, but I would say if I have like a niche or like a focus, it would be like specifically Hong Kong cinemas and Canto Pop, which is Hong Kong music in Cantonese. And of course, like TV shows specifically, people, if they're like Chinese diaspora, they will know TVB. I think a lot of people know that 3 letters, which is a television station that produced mass amount of Cantonese dramas and whatnot. And they've been established for so long. And they're really one of the pioneers in like TV in Hong Kong because they're one of the earliest one to like broadcast. And also like they're like the dominant players and still is to this point.
So when you were young, we had, I guess, our Lao community and our Lao parents. Most of the time we accessed this kind of cinema or drama. A lot of it was through visits to Southeast Asia via, VCDs or satellite television. I knew a lot of the families that had like satellites in their backyard so they could access all these channels. But that was for Australia because it was much harder to access. So I'm wondering, like, how easy was it to access in Canada? Like, what was your main means of being able to watch a lot of these bits of entertainment?
I'll start off with prefacing like I grew up in like the 90s, so like the internet was building up. But for the most part, I would say television industry as a whole has been pretty good enough where I was able to actually get those like TVB dramas like through the TV because there is actually a TV station in Canada that is focused on Cantonese language.
Wow.
They have the news, they produce their own shows and whatnot, but they also bought TVB drama so that they could play it on their own TV station for us to watch. But of course, those back in the day was very much like, it may be like 6 months to a year delay. Does that make sense? Like we saw it afterwards. And of course, there's always the VCR, the VCDs that we could get for like TV shows and also movies and whatnot that we could get at the store. Often bootleg, but still nonetheless. But we also have TV or radio station in Canada that are like Cantonese, so I could hear music and hear people talking Cantonese as well. So it wasn't hard to get that media. And then as like towards like 2000s, where the internet was so much better, or like pirating and stuff, I was able to actually download those TV shows online by myself without really torrenting at all, even. So it was pretty easy. At that point where if I wanted to watch a show and I'm interested in it, I could just download and watch it on my computer.
Yeah, that's most of the trajectory for most of us that grew up in the 90s. We didn't have especially any channel that catered to us. It was either we had like 5 channels. And they were all like, if you think about it, it was pretty Australian.
I mean, SBS is probably comes the closest to what Kyle's talking about. But that was kind of like all foreign cinema as opposed to just like a specific niche.
But I would preface saying that it's not like a public channel. It's more like a extra Chinese channel that we have to pay in addition to the cable that we have. So it wasn't where it was included already, but it was worth having just because it was us being able to see news in Chinese of like international news or also local news, which I think a lot of people still cling on to even to this day where, you can find everything online, but it's just being able to turn on the TV, click on that channel, and there's already either Cantonese news or whatever it may be, at least for my parents, because they still have it, even though they watch a lot of their shows online anyways now.
You grew up with cable. You're one of the cool kids, and everyone that want to hang out with you. It's like, this guy's got cable.
Well, I think it's probably more standard in Canada than it is in Australia. I think it was kind of a luxury item here. But I think, having parents that wanted to consume that kind of media as well definitely helped. I don't think my parents would have gone to the extent of like doing what you would have to do in Australia, which is get a satellite in your backyard
my parents
to access their TV shows.
My parents definitely didn't want any more ways to entertain myself in my early schooling years. The video games were enough. So
it was hard enough to convince them to get a PlayStation, to be honest. So I guess that's why, as a child anyway, or a young person growing up in Canada, I guess you would have been more inclined to watch like those Cantonese dramas and stuff. Am I thinking Young and Dangerous?
Yeah, definitely. That's actually a movie, but nonetheless, it's like
Okay,
one of
yeah.
the classic ones. Young and Dangerous, I think it transcended to like all of
Yeah.
Southeast Asia, where even if you might not be like Chinese or Cantonese like speaking, you definitely heard of it if you had like friends that are of that background, because it's just the popularity and like the relevance and like just the pop culture-ness of it. But yeah, definitely, you're correct. And yeah, I mean, I think I grew up during a time where like the 80s and 90s of like golden Hong Kong cinema was at this tail end. So like I do know of those like classic ones. I might have watched it like when I was really young, but all those like kind of golden cinema is often where I have to go back and rewatch it myself in my adult years. But like I know of it, but like I didn't like watch it at that time.
Yeah.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you've mentioned on your podcast you've had like episodes where you've talked about K-dramas and such, and even when we were on your episode, you had the Sophie's choice of whether I would choose to watch J-drama or K-drama, and I had to omit one for the rest of my life. But was there a sort of a distinct difference between much of the Kanto drama and maybe some of the Korean drama that you might have got into? Is there much of a difference in terms of its execution given the different, I guess, cultures?
I would say if for me as like a consumer, without like any kind of like literary critic kind of lens, I would say like with Cantonese drama for most part versus Korean drama, I think Cantonese dramas are more grounded in reality for most part. Of course, there are always the like the ancient dramas where like wuxia, where it's like the kind of like those ones. But I think for most part, Korean dramas are willing to take it to like outside the normal realm of TV drama genres, because there's a lot of like supernatural things that are like it becomes popular. I think with Cantonese drama is very grounded in like everyday life and kind of thing. There are those exceptions, but those exceptions are also grounded in like where it's like historical things, where Korean dramas have a greater level or range of what's allowed or what's not allowed or appreciated in terms of like breaking ground to like new things. Because I think as we will see in our review of Three Extremes, we could talk a little more about the differences. But like,
that'd be cool.
Yeah, but I think the biggest difference I think with Cantonese drama per se is like it doesn't feel like it's breaking ground into like, oh my god, like Parasite level kind of thing, if that makes sense. But I think Korean drama always kind of have that kind of thing. And then Japanese drama is very like, depending on what you watch, is could be very like, oh, they can nail like the feelings really well for whatever feeling they want, I feel, in my opinion. So if it's like really sad drama, it's like turn up 100.
I think there's a certain earnestness about the Japanese execution of drama that is effective and perhaps missing in other countries' media. But I also wanted to ask, like, growing up in Canada, did you have a lot of people that you could talk about these TV shows with, like in school and stuff, or was it more you and your parents just watching stuff together?
There's that one part, there is that part of like, oh, watching it just with the family and whatnot. But interesting enough for myself, at least with my experience growing up and going to school in Canada, I actually ended up like in a high school, secondary school kind of situation where like majority of us were either East Asian background or like South Asian. So I had a lot of friends that were also like Chinese background that are Cantonese speaking. So we watched the same dramas and stuff, or at least they have some recognition of it. How deep we are into it varies in levels, but I did find friends that we were able to connect, we were able to talk. Like I have a really good friend of mine, I still friends with him, where we really literally got connected, or like we started talking because we found, oh, we watched TVB dramas or whatnot, and then it was like, oh, which like actress do you have a crush on, whatever, and we found out like we like the same person, and that's how it started our friendship per se. So it's definitely where I did get that experience of like being able to talk about those kind of drama, cinema and stuff with friends, but how much of it is really dependent on the person and their like surroundings at the end of the day. I was just lucky that I grew up in the Asian enclave where watching these kind of cinema or media wasn't really so like ridiculed per se. If say I live in an entirely like non-Asian area, then there's like, oh, did you watch this TVB drama? They probably like, what the heck is that? Or like, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, it's kind of the difference in environments. Because I know like when we were on your podcast, Tavi and I both talked about our like school experience, and Tavi went to a very like
I went to a
guess.
very Caucasian school.
You went to a very white high school.
A very Australian high school.
I was going to try to dance around it, but it wasn't a very white high school compared to mine.
That's how it is.
So while I went to high school with a lot of other Asian people, and they kind of introduced me to a lot of media, like Young and Dangerous, for example, or even certain anime. Yeah, I think that's just kind of the benefit of growing up in kind of a multicultural environment, is that you can kind of like feed each other different sources of media and kind of like influence each other in that way. And you're right, like it'll be like varying degrees depending on the person you talk to. But I think even just that exposure, that level of exposure is really beneficial in terms of like expanding your cinematic horizons, I guess.
Yeah, I think for me, it was like I was the one like that was peddling the movies. Because I think it's probably not a mystery that I probably, for lack of a better definition, was in with more of the nerdy clique of friends. But they were all quite open to movies. So like, oh man, you got to watch Kung Fu Hustle. And oh, you got to watch this. But I would always skew them more towards stuff that I liked back then, like a lot of cult cinema. Like today's movie, for example, I'd be like, yeah, you got to watch this. It's awesome. And they're like, oh yeah, that's Spook-tober, man. So surprisingly receptive with the right crowd of people, I guess.
Yeah. And you got influence in other ways. I think your taste in music is not very Asian, Tavi. So
yeah.
Maybe that has something
actually.
to do with going to school in Sunbury.
Yeah, I remember we had another guest on, and I think we were setting up, and I was playing a playlist, and it's like, yeah, your taste in music is very white. I'm like, yeah, I guess it is. So but hey, I still like K-pop, so I'm Asian, so it's fine.
Yeah, you get there eventually.
Which era of K-pop did you guys get into first?
Oh,
for me, it would have been back in like the days of Shinhwa and HOT when they were on the scene.
I was a
Think
generation
KL.
after Dan. Would have been like Girls' Generation, Shiny, Kara. Those were the days. I think that's like second generation, I think they call it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm on your end. I got into it. I remember distinctively like 2006. For me, it would be like sophomore of high school, where there was this girl, and then she was just trying to push like Wonder Girls and Big Bang and all that stuff. And I got hooked on Wonder Girls, and then of course there's Big Bang, and then got sucked into that space. Because when we're talking about K-pop, it's not just K-pop. It's about the K-variety show that is still very popular now, but also the drama as well, and also eventually the movies. I think the movie was a harder sell just because I guess it was more adult themed than normal. But like K-pop was definitely, for me, 2006. But then eventually I kind of got not sick of it, but like I just didn't care for it anymore, or I didn't pay attention specifically to it. Where like I dropped off like maybe 2011 at that point. And now I'm just but if it's popular and it's popular enough, I hear it, then oh yeah, I know this Korean pop, but do I like know every member or do I know every group? No. But I still enjoy it. It's good music if it's good music.
It's good music, yeah. To be honest, it's not a great space to be in the community, but some of the music it's pretty good.
I mean, for myself, the extent of fandom I got was just buying a lot of like their CDs and whatnot, just because I had money then, because I had jobs, and then buying from Yes Asia. That was the cool thing.
Oh my God, Yes Asia. Oh dude, I bought so much stuff from there. I bought all the limited edition movies and stuff, and I'm pretty sure I bought one of the SNSD albums, and I got like a big poster of Jessica.
You know how
somewhere.
crazy I got into with K-pop? I think looking back is like, I didn't have to do this knowing the trajectory of how K-pop is now. But I attended a Jonas Brothers concert just because Wonder Girls is actually opening for them.
Yeah.
You remember when Wonder Girls tried to break into the West?
Yeah, I remember that.
They were eventually opening.
Was that their instrument playing era when they all had an instrument?
It was that nobody era. So I went to that concert just so I could watch Wonder Girls, even though they only performed like maybe 2-3 songs max. But I did ended up getting a picture of all the girls.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah.
That's worth it then. That's worth sitting through a Jonas Brothers concert.
I mean, I didn't hate Jonas Brothers anyways. But the fact that if I didn't know it was Wonder Girls, I would never have went, because I was a kid, so it was like paying money for that. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure my first trip to South Korea was because of SNSD.
Oh,
to get all of the SNSD merch. So, we all go to extremes sometimes.
With you, right? Yeah. I didn't go with you on that first
when
trip.
I went with Dune. Yeah, we had we bought a guitar, I think, just to muck around with in the apartment, and it just ended up being covered with SNSD stickers that we collected from various sources by the end of the trip. I think I've still got it somewhere in my parents' house.
Oh, I remember that guitar. I remember it. Yeah, you said it in your parents' house. Yeah.
Yeah. We bought that and a pair of practice nunchucks. And they were our sources of entertainment in the apartment while drinking makgeolli and soju till all hours of the night. Yeah, good trip. And how about with anime and Japanese media? You did mention, Kyle, that you were exposed a bit to Japanese cinema just because it was kind of big at the time.
Yeah.
Like what kind of Japanese cinema are you referring to?
I think for myself, actually, it's strange. I actually didn't get really into anime or manga kind of trajectory, actually, compared to a lot of what people would assume me just because I'm an East Asian male.
Yep.
Like I never got into, I don't hate it. I just never got into studying it or watching or consuming it in that level. Like I did like the Death Note or whatnot, like the simple ones, but I never got really into it. So I would say if there is a Japanese drama, I would have tuned in just because I liked it. I watched the Death Note live action. I guess my favorite Japanese drama of all time was 1 Liter of Tears. I don't know if you know that.
I know of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty,
I think that's
a pretty popular one. Yeah.
Yeah. I watched that. I was like, yeah, that's... And then, of course, there's other Japanese stuff here and there that I would just consume. But now it's just lost on me what it is. But I never really got into it as deep as I would say with my K-pop. K-pop, I was consuming the music, watching the K-variety show, and watching whatever drama that my bias was in, if they were in, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think with Japanese drama is if it's on, I'll watch it. Or if it's something that really pops off and people are talking about it, then I will check it out if it interests me. But I think Japanese drama, didn't catch my interest as much because I felt like it was a lot more slower pace in general compared to Korean dramas or other things I watch. And then Japanese cinema, I feel it's also is good, but it's not where I would actively look for it per se. But I know it's really good still.
Yeah. Fun fact, you probably would have watched Running Man back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dan and I have been on that show twice, if you think about it. In the
yeah, we have been on twice. Yeah.
We've been in the background. We were
at one of those shopping malls when they were filming.
No, it was at Incheon Airport. They were filming at Incheon Airport. Yeah, it was a split second of the back of our heads checking in our luggage.
Yeah, because we had our one of our mates, and he's the white guy of the group. He was a tall guy, so they're obviously establishing the internationality of Incheon Airport. So we snuck in.
You reckon that was the most international group they could find? It's 4 Asian blokes and a white guy.
Diversity.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if you caught the episode where they went to Sovereign Hill, which is
an Australian tourist trap.
Yeah, Australian tourist. It's not. No, it might be expensive now. I haven't been there for years, but it's sort of where you learn about all the gold rush and shit. But that's not the fun stuff. The fun stuff is Running Man went there, and we sort of found out. And then that area was swarming with Running Man fans. And the way that they managed to film the episode, making it look like it wasn't swarmed by a large crowd of, I guess, Korea boos. But Dan and I went, and we got really drunk. And we convinced one of the actors that we were journalists. So we just stood. The security was trying to move people away, but Dan and I, we just didn't move. And then one of the actors was talking to us, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, I don't really have any idea what's going on." And we were giving them the history. It's "Oh, this is this guy. Haha's the funny one, and Jae-suk's the tall guy, and blah blah blah." So he kind of knew how to interact with different people. And there was I think a couple of moments. I think we saw Haha close up, and he was interacting with the actor. The actor asked us. I remember he's who's this guy? Who's this guy's name again? And it's that's Haha. And he's like, "Oh, Haha, yes, over here." And yeah, it was kind of cool. It's yeah, there you go. So we're in Korean. We are officially in Korean entertainment, Dan. We've already made our debut.
A lot of history
10 years ago.
Yeah. I don't think we got a credit. and we didn't get any money for it, but
You got a story.
Yeah. That security
that's worth the 2-hour
was
drive.
harsh. I think a bunch of fans took photos, and one of the guys went up to the group and he like forced them to delete the photos, and he like checked their phones and stuff. I'm like, damn, man, this is a fucking public area, you know? It's like,
I don't think they were prepared for how popular those guys were in Australia.
Yeah.
They seemed really underprepared, to be
I
honest.
think so.
And I think they're still so popular these days.
They're still running. Yeah. No pun intended. But still running. Yeah. Some cast lineup change, but hey, I mean, for a variety show that's gone on for 14 years now, 2011 was the first one. God damn, that's some staying power. If I was Jae-suk or Ji-suk, I'd like, nah, I don't want to run anymore. I'm 50 years old.
But the money's good.
Yeah, the money is good. Yeah.
Do you guys feel like Korean variety show have really taken over the top of like overall Asian variety shows? Because I think for the longest time, though, we all think of like Japanese variety show being like the top, like with their crazy, wacky game. But I feel like Korean have locked it down in terms of having the game component and also like the celebrity and like interview kind of stamp.
Yeah, I think definitely.
To me, that's kind of been the way for a lot of different media. Like Japan is kind of, it's kind of got the local market and it kind of refines the idea. But then Korea kind of like perfects it almost and brings like the international appeal a bit more.
Yeah.
So like the same thing happened with J-pop and K-pop, really. Like, and I guess the same can kind of be said about Japanese drama versus Korean drama. And even movies as well. Like, you know, Japanese cult cinema was like really big back in the day. But now like you've got really big Korean productions like getting a lot of international recognition as opposed to, you know, Japanese cinema. So yeah, to me, like historically, that's kind of been a bit of a trend in East Asian cinema.
Yeah, I think Korea's just better at adapting to a global market. It's a bit more palatable.
They're a bit more westernized in general.
Yeah, that can be for good and bad because sometimes with new like burgeoning Korean stuff, it's sort of some of it it loses its like flavor. I think its authenticity. When it's not being as Korean as it's supposed to, where I think Japanese media doesn't really give a fuck. They're just like, we kind of
they
make
only
it the
see
Japanese
Japan
film.
as Japan. That's it.
Yeah,
you
that's
like it, great, but
they only care about the Japanese audience. Really.
Yeah. The only thing that they sort of make a bit more palatable with the question mark is anime, because I'm just thinking about half the stuff that they make is still pretty weird, but anime is by far. I think media,
all along they realized anime was their soft power.
Yeah.
So that's why they were willing to bend a bit for it. But overall, everything else, no. Like, have you seen like how, like at least J-Rock and stuff, how they're still like what they're doing compared to like what people would want with like rock music these days? They don't care about like how, I don't want to say behind they are, but like they're still stuck in the times. In some sort of way. Yeah,
that's a good point. I was having a chat with this about Risky, how we would listen to some of the newer bands, and I still very much like that music, but it does have this sound of, I guess, the early mid 2000s, and it hasn't really changed that much. But on the flip side of that, I'm not really sure if I want to, because I really enjoy that kind of music. The more, I guess, anime sounding instrumental pieces that come out from Japan. It's much more enjoyable for a old millennial like me who grew up in those times. But, you know,
I think it's just something to say about how much perfection they are known for that would inhibit them to innovate. Like when would be in our life have the next big innovation coming from Japan?
Yeah,
kind of thing.
That's true. Yeah,
there's almost like a stubbornness to not innovate. Like I'm just thinking of Miyazaki films as well. Like there's that clip of a bunch of his animation stuff trying to show him like some 3D generated and AI generated content, and Miyazaki's just like, get the fuck out of here. It's like not having a bar of it. So there is, which is kind of what I love as well about Japan, is I'm more than happy for them to just keep being Japan, to be honest. Like I don't feel like there is a need for them to kind of change what they're doing. You know, if it's not broke, don't change it, I reckon.
Yeah, exactly.
Let Korea do that.
Or we need someone else to innovate to a good point, and then they start liking that whatever craft it is and perfect that. because I think they're good at that part, finding something and perfecting it. They don't need to innovate. They just need to have something that they are really zoned in on, really liking, and then they innovate it or like they perfect it, and it's like we all love that.
The latest innovation that comes to my head is probably the omurice. There was omurice craze, and the guy was going on tour, and he's just like, "Yeah, I make good omurice, and you pay $60 to come see me make omurice." Like, yeah, I love that shit. And
or the fact that apparently Japan makes really good pizza now.
Oh, really?
I'm gonna have to see that to believe it. I'm afraid, Kyle.
Yeah, one of the things I missed about Australia when I was living there with Dan was pizza, because it's like, I don't want to spend $30 on average pizza. But I reckon Carl's probably talking about the places that, you know, the Japanese chef trained in Italy, went back to Japan and like does like the really fancy stuff. I reckon it's pretty good, because I think pasta dishes are really good in Japan. But yeah, anyway, we might be straying a bit too far from today's topic. So
I am glad to have had a chat with you, Kyle, about your taste in various forms of Asian cinema, specifically Hong Kong, Korean, and Japanese cinema, because the movie that we're talking about today contains a bit of all of those elements. So this is Three Extremes, a 2005 anthology film made up of 3 short films. The first being a Hong Kong film called Dumplings, directed by Park Chan. Second being a Korean-led production called Cut, directed by Park Chan-wook. And the third and final one being a Japanese production called Box, directed by Takashi Miike. I guess we can split up the conversation and talk about each of these films in succession, but just a little bit of background of the film itself. So Three Extremes is the second anthology in this series, right, Tavi? The first one being 3?
This one was actually the sequel to 3, but this one was the one that made it to international markets first through Tartan Extreme. So the first one is actually sort of like the faux sequel now, but this is essentially the sequel. But regardless of whichever one you watch, all the stories are not connected story-wise, but they all, I guess, have a thematic or genre connection to horror thriller, and not being shy of the title Extreme, because I had forgotten how extreme some of these movies were, to be honest.
Yes, same. Especially the first one. I completely got blindsided by the first one, Dumplings.
Dumplings.
So as the title suggests, Three Extremes, each of the films kind of explore extremity, I guess, in its themes. So the first film we'll talk about is Dumplings, a Hong Kong production directed by Park Chan, starring Bai Ling as Aunt May, Miriam Yeung as Miss Lee, and a special guest appearance from Tony Leung Ka-fai as the husband of Mrs. Lee, I should say. Probably should put a trigger warning for this one, because it's pretty fucked up.
Just put a trigger warning for all of them, and then we're covered.
Yeah, I guess
legally.
all of them. I feel like they get less fucked up as they go on, but that's just my personal opinion. But we'll talk about it.
Pretty messed up as well. You think about it.
Yeah. We'll get to it. But this one centers around Mrs. Lee, who is an aging TV star who is trying to cling to her youth by visiting Aunt May, who can make these special dumplings that make you look more youthful. Yeah.
But what's the secret ingredient, Dan?
they got fetuses in them, all right? Let's not dance around.
Spoiler alert, but I guess we can say whatever we want, because the movie's out for so long already, right?
This is an old film. If trust me, Kyle, if people are still listening to us by now, they've watched this film.
Sure. As you were mentioning earlier, Kyle, you spent some time in Hong Kong as a kid, but I guess you moved to Canada at 5, so I'm not sure what recollection you have, but I'm wondering to hear what the vision is like from a Hong Kong local, or as Hong Kong local as we get out of the 3 of us, I suppose.
Yeah, I think they're pretty good, and I think they filmed it intentionally where it's very like grassroots public housing area, or like just as a whole, like true to like everyday kind of perspective, because where they're filming is very much like local living area. It's not like a set up for it. Like I think it was actually like filmed in that like this public estate that normal people who have lived there, and everything I think is very to the time, like 2000s. I think they did really well. I didn't feel like, oh, it's out of place, or I'd see, oh, it's a bit off. Why is that kind of thing? I think it was, everything was very, other than what the topic at hand is, very like realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially Aunt May's apartment, I felt was very natural, like production design. It felt very authentic anyway.
Yeah, Fru Chen has I guess, a distinct aesthetic for real life Hong Kong. I guess he's, from Hong Kong himself, and he's made a lot of films there just about sort of the everyday life of people, even though this one sort of features, rich people, but you sort of see the extremities of what the lower class have to go through. And it's also got the very distinct Christopher Doyle cinematography.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's very, I still find it very ironic that one of the key elements of Hong Kong cinema and visual styles comes from a drunkard Australian asshole guy who worked with Wong Kar-wai. And it's beautiful. And you see a lot of his usual frame within frames, sort of placing the camera where it's sort of peering through at people as if we are sort of like a third person, but we're almost there, like sneaking into people's lives. It sort of captures the like the whisperings and what people are saying and the secrecy of it all. But I'd never seen him do a horror movie before, so it's interesting to see that used. Yeah,
visually, it doesn't feel that much like a horror film.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
If you take out the sound design and the score, I think it's actually looks pretty nice in most parts. But I think the sound design and the score kind of, because like this movie is about food, I guess. And food typically in Asian cinema is used to represent comfort and family, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like this movie attempts to turn that idea on its head, and it does use like that kind of unsettling score and also just the context of the situation to twist that idea. And even things like the way that Aunt May cooks and the sounds that they use to illustrate
I love the sound
cooking,
design
like
in this film. It's really disturbing.
But I feel like if you replace the score with something really pleasant, it actually would not be as disturbing. It wouldn't be disturbing at all, I feel like, because they always use ASMR in like cooking scenes, right? But it's just the extra diegetic of like, what she's eating, and also the unsettling score that kind of perverts that idea, I guess.
Yeah.
If you take away like the fact that it's a horror movie, I think it's not actually a horror movie at all. I think it's more of like a social political thriller.
Yeah.
Sound design, of course, is trying to make it like very scary, eerie kind of thing. But if you like put it in like any other kind of score or anything, it could be a different movie where it would be like, oh, we're addressing such social political issue in Hong Kong.
There's even like it's essentially an abortion scene, right?
Yeah.
But that's scored to like a really pleasant song. So it's kind of like, again, it is kind of twisting the tone of the film.
Like imagine the score being the score of In the Mood of Love.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Wong Kar-wai directed Dumplings would be an interesting movie. It's interesting because from the get-go, May, she knows she's consuming fetuses. She just ignores it. And I guess the film explores maybe somewhat of a critique of traditional medicines. That's sort of a very East Asian thing, or even like Southeast Asian, because my mum uses a lot of the herbal medicines and stuff. Obviously she doesn't eat fetuses, but I'm wondering like what you think about the exploration of these themes and how culturally relevant it is to people in Hong Kong.
I think it tackles it pretty well in terms of like, at least based on my experience with East Asian or specifically Chinese culture in terms of feeling about food and like the benefits and such. Like it's always been the thing where like you eat certain body parts of an animal, it helps certain thing. Like they think that if you eat pig's brain, you'll get smarter, or like you eat a certain body part is good for your bones and that kind of thing. So I think they tackle it head on in terms of like the theme and the whole aspect of eating something that's younger, like a fetus, to make you look more youthful. It goes aligned with what the normal thinking of what food does for you in terms of the healing powers. But I think they take it way extreme, and also like, how did they even think of that? And I think it go in line with another movie that talks about body parts and food with Hong Kong cinema. The movie with Anthony Lee with the char siu bun thing. I don't know if you watched that one.
I'm not familiar with it, no.
It's essentially him making like char siu bao buns with like human remains.
Is it called The Eight Immortals Restaurant? The Untold Story?
Yeah.
Directed by Danny Lee, starring Anthony Wong.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it's based on a real story.
I think I know about this movie because I know Anthony Wong was in some, I guess, category 3 messed up movies that involved food. So I think it might be this one that you're talking about. And it's quite grotesque from what I've read about it. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And it also plays on the idea of food and its connection to family in Asian cinema, while like in this movie, she's literally like consuming somebody's family, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's pretty messed up. And she's doing it for very selfish reasons as well. So again, it's kind of twisting that idea.
But it's sort of pushing on that, I guess, whether we're qualified to talk about this or not. But it's that women in East Asia's issue, the beauty standards issue, always trying to find the next thing to, I guess, fight nature, you know, that you're getting older. And it's kind of hard because a woman's beauty, I guess, is so valued in East Asia, and you do anything to retain it, you know, whereas I guess it's so much easier for guys where we can just sort of just coast through. I mean, if we're ugly fucks by 35, at least, you know, if we're rich, it's fine. But most of us are not. So that's also an issue. But yeah, it's just different. It's just different for guys. So it's sort of tackling that standard of her resorting to such extremes to have to try to fight to keep her youth, you know, because Tanny Lung Kai-Fai, he's cheating on her with the younger masseuse, and she's just not, you know, she doesn't feel as valued anymore. And it's kind of sad to see like the idea of not being able to age, I guess, gracefully, like having to eat a fetus is fucking, you know, it's pretty, it's like, goddamn. Yeah.
I got a question for you too. I was wondering with this film that you enjoy or like the choice that Fruit Chan made in terms of not intentionally making the main actress older. So, and then after they eat the fetus, then they'll look up more younger. Because I think for me, when I looked at it, is like he did not do that.
She looks the same.
That maybe it speaks to the fact that the harder you try to do it, by the end of the film, she does not look apparently younger to us.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was effective, but at the same time, there is a scene where Tony Leung kind of just loses his mind over her. So I think the implication is that there's something about her that is more desirable. But I mean, maybe it's not like a physical beauty thing. Maybe it's a confidence thing. Maybe the dumplings just gave her the confidence she needed to seduce her dog of a husband.
Or it also speaks to it's all in your mind of how youthful you feel or are. Because by the end of it, of all the things that she has done, as an audience, you don't see that she really, in terms of her beauty, is any different. Like, especially towards the end when she starts getting rashes and stuff. So does that make her youthful still? I don't know. But yeah, it's just interesting how in the end she went to so extreme to that it does the reverse for her in terms of making her younger.
Yeah, I was going to say, because this one actually has a feature film attached to it. So out of the 3 films, this was expanded. And it's interesting that you brought that up, and it might actually make this stronger as a short in terms of that thematic aspect, whether or not the dumplings are making her younger. Or whether it's in her mind. But it's actually in the full feature length, I think you find out the age of May. Bai Ling's character, she's actually, in the film, she's supposed to be 64 years old. But because she's eating the dumplings, she's staying youthful. So in the logic of the feature release, it works. But I think this might be actually stronger as a short because there's some things that are different, especially in regards to the ending, actually. So we find out that Bai Ling's character, she aborted a fetus from a schoolgirl who was, you know, sexually assaulted by her father, and had to have the baby. Man, this is fucked up. Had to have the baby aborted, and the schoolgirl died. So the cops are sort of looking for her, and she's on the run. And Mrs. Lee is looking for Bai Ling, but she's not there anymore. But we find out that Mrs. Lee is pregnant, but she, instead of deciding to, you know, nurture this child, she aborts herself in the bathtub. It's not a super graphic sequence, but it's all in the implied sound design and just you making up your own imagination. But she succeeds in what she does. And it's just such a simple shot of blood coming down, her mouth, and she just licks her lips. So it's obviously...
got a big tongue.
She's eaten her own fetus. And I'm like, damn, that's insane, And it's not overtly graphic or dramatized. It's just a very simple shot, a little glance towards the camera. And I think that ending is much more powerful.
It's kind of a sad ending. Yeah.
Yeah. Compared to the feature film, the husband actually gets the masseuse pregnant, and Mrs. Lee is like, oh, I bought the baby from her, and then I'll eat the child instead. So yeah, it's less thematically strong, I think. So I think this film probably works better as a short. But that being said, I haven't seen the feature in a little while.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that this is the one out of the three that gets the feature-length treatment, because I feel like this was probably the one with the most depth and the most to explore, to expand on. But, it's like most horror shorts, I feel like they do better in short form rather than long form. All right, did anyone have any additional points about Dumplings before we move on?
I found it interesting how they will use cannibalism as like the way to make it a horror thing. Oftentimes it's just you like sawing someone off right on the screen and you're like, oh, that's scary. But here it's where like you're eating it and you're like the emotionless of that person as they eat. I think that's more scary than other kind of formats of horror that we would normally see in other horror movies, which I think they did really well.
But a lot of it is left to your imagination. When you hear the crunching sounds that she's making, you're like, ooh, what could that be?
The horror is more disturbing rather than scary.
Yeah, it's not scary.
It's not scary, but it will stay with you. That's for sure.
Pretty understated. Yeah, even in the performances, all the performances are pretty understated.
Yeah.
There's no one kind of like losing their shit and going over the top. Which brings us to our next film.
Oh, yeah. Great transition. Great segue.
So this is Cut, directed by Park Chan-wook, starring Lee Byung-hun. So this tells the story of a film director who comes to his home one night and then finds that there's a man in his house who knocks him out and then wakes him up in order to torture him and his wife for reasons. So Park Chan-wook and Lee Byung-hun have a movie coming out. Probably won't be out yet by the time this is released, but it is called No Other Choice. If people don't know who Park Chan-wook is, he's the guy that directed Old Boy. And if people don't know who Lee Byung-hun is, he's Guima from K-pop Demon Hunters.
Out of all the roles. I was waiting until you would eventually reference that movie, Dan.
You got it. It's good for SEO, Tommy.
You've been farming K-pop Demon Hunters in our shorts and our reels.
Now I can put it in the tags, and this episode will do well.
For sure. That's how you do it.
Yeah. So this is obviously a South Korean production, and it feels pretty South Korean, especially compared to the film that we just talked about, right? Like you can instantly tell the difference in aesthetics, even from like the opening shot. While, like Kyle mentioned, the setting for Dumplings is quite rustic, I guess you'd call it.
Realistic, yeah.
Yeah, the setting for Cut, it's an apartment, but it's a very lavishly decorated apartment. And well, it starts with a set that is meant to replicate
It's very meta.
Apartment.
It is very meta.
Yes.
Yeah.
As is par for the course for Park Chan-wook movies, the production design is immaculate.
It is. It's very stylized. Lots of primary colors. It makes everything sort of pop out. Lots of careful framing. Lots of dark, goofy ass, weird humor that he likes to put in. This is one's probably the funniest one out of the three. And probably the most intense, viscerally intense one. The one that earns this film probably the R rating in Australia. Not insanely graphic, but again, a lot of it is just that implied violence where I guess the intruder or the stranger has set up this contraption to his wife where her hands are on this piano key and she's all tied through wires and whatnot. And he cuts her finger off one by one throughout the short. And it's very hard to watch. It's very just intense because you are thrust right into Lee Byung-hun's character as the director. You just want to stop him. but you can't do anything about it because you're tied up. But I mean, I'm curious to hear just your initial impression of this one, Kyle.
Yeah, again, I feel like it's not a horror film. I think all of them, at least with the exception of the third one that we'll talk about, I feel it's more towards like the psychological thriller kind of thing, depending on how they want to do it, especially if they make it into like a full feature.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think overall it was really nice of a short. It really hits the nail on what Korean cinema, the theme of revenge, the theme of the rich and the poor, and like the struggles, like the Han, and it's just
that's it.
It was filmed in the last 20 years, but in 2025, if you tell me they filmed this, it will still be on brand for what they would do because they can't get away from the theme. Yeah.
I mean, it's similar themes to his upcoming movie, I imagine. You know, just the struggles of poverty.
Because some things don't change, you know? The world's fucked. We're all doomed. No, life is all right. You know, we're not going to get kidnapped, hopefully, anytime soon.
Yeah.
I might be the closest one to this. I might get disgruntled extra from one of my sets. I just wake up. I'm like, God damn it. It's all right. I don't have a wife.
And then I'll be the one tied to the piano. I'll be tied to a fucking piano.
I'm going to cut his fingers off. Oh, yeah.
You're guilty by association.
You better kill that kid, Tabi. I'm not losing fingers for this.
Oh, well, I'm a pacifist, Dan. I don't kill people.
Oh.
Well, that's just great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually found this film less transgressive than the first film, than Dumplings.
Yeah.
Like you said, a lot of the violence is more implied than explicit. I mean, it's obviously still pretty hard to watch. I thought that they would do more with the imagery of her being tied by wires. I feel like that's a great image, but like it didn't really play into the horror of the scene because ultimately he's cutting off her fingers with an axe, you know? Like I thought it might be the wires doing the cutting, but alas, it's still like a really nice visual. And I think the strength of this film in general is just like how playful it is with like the cinematography as well. There's a lot of interesting shots. The performances are really fun as well. I think, you know, both Lee Byung-hun and the intruder, actor's name is Lim Won-hee. And even the wife, Kang Hye-jun, you know, they're all being very overt as opposed to the first film, which was a bit more underplayed, which is what I enjoy in Korean cinema as well. I'm there for like extra performances.
Yeah. I mean, you've got some of the greatest talents working together. You know, you got Park Chan-wook, who's obviously no stranger to our podcast. I mean, anyone who's been listening to us knows he's one of my favorite directors. And Lee Byung-hun is, you know,
probably my first man crush.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Lee
Byung-hun, he's a handsome man. You know?
You seen him in G.I. Joe, Kyle? With his sweaty abs? Good stuff.
True.
Yeah, and him doing the little ass dance in this movie which is really
so
silly.
handsome.
That took me out. Like I did not expect that kind of humor. I guess that it's intended for that, but did not expect that.
There's a bit, it's weird. I think the humor in this movie is maybe a little bit more on the nose in Park Chan-wook style. It sort of leans towards the slapstick. I mean, there's a sequence where the stranger is trying to get Lee Byung-hun to recognize who he is.
Oh yeah.
And you get like stares from the wife and the director as this stranger who in jump cuts is implied that he's just putting on his different costumes and just doing like these silly dances. Like he's just in his Speedos with like flippers and he's just flopping around. Like, what is that? They're just sort of looking at him like blankly, even though they're in an extremely traumatic situation. They're sort of just looking at him as they're thinking, who is this guy? Like, what's he doing in my house? Like, almost an inconvenience at that point, which I find is really funny.
And I think it kind of plays into the tension of the scenario as well. Because, us as the audience, we don't really know what his motivations are either. And you don't really find out like what his motivation is until quite towards the end of the film. So I feel like a lot of the tension comes from like how much of a loose cannon this guy is, but also from like the decision that Lee Byung-hun's character has to make as well. But I mean, comparing the two films that we've talked about so far, Dumplings and Cut, which one did you prefer, Kyle, so far?
I thought for the meaning of what it's getting at least how I interpret with Cut, I like Cut more just because of like I think that at least the theme for me is like being a rich guy versus being a poor guy. Life's unfair. But what does it mean for us? What do we have to do? Should we like try to bring the other person down to our level, or should we try to elevate and become that person? I think that was the struggle that was in that short, at least because with The Stranger, he tried to make the director talk about how he's being bad. Like, why do you need him to admit that he's bad to make you feel better that, you know, rich people cannot be good as well? But in reality, it doesn't matter, right? You could just try
It's
to...
an interesting motivation. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think it speaks to like us as humans, are we the type to be able to be happy for other people's success, or we always just want them to be at our level regardless, even if we're doing really bad? I think that's what I thought the theme was, and it's an interesting concept to think about and marinate on, because that, I think, is a big theme even to this day, where it's like, how do we deal with, you know, inequality, poverty as such?
Not like this. We don't deal with it like the guy in this film.
But
he goes to a lot of effort to illustrate a very simple point.
It's interesting though, because even though this is tackling that theme of classism, it's very easy to portray the rich guy as the asshole and the lower class, middle class person as the person who is in the struggle. But with this one, it's clearly the middle class guy is the one terrorizing, you know, this rich family. But what Park Chan-wook does pretty well is sort of have each character have dubious moralistic things that sort of tread on the line of
flaws,
the moralistic standpoints. Yeah, because Lee Byung-hun doesn't do anything overtly antagonistic, but some of the stuff that he admits, that he says, you know, to the stranger, you know, he's cheating on his wife and he's done this and this, but to the stranger, that's not good enough. But in, you know, the eyes of society, it's bad.
I think they do that with the wife character as well, when he finally takes off her gag and she's like, kill the kid, for fuck's sake, kill the kid. So it kind of shows that, like, all these characters are not, you know, when push comes to shove, they're not saints, right? I feel like Lee Byung-hun's, the part where he kind of snaps and like starts admitting everything to his wife, and then he goes like even further and decides to like just air out all his grievances with his wife. I feel like that part was a bit sudden. I don't think there was much build up or enough of a build up to him just kind of venting like that. And again, it's kind of like he was forced into that situation as well. So you're not really sure like whether he was just saying that so that this guy would let them go, or whether he actually felt like that. So I think in that's probably my main critique of this film, is that I think it's probably just due to like a shortness of runtime, but I don't know if Lee Byung-hun's character was kind of like fully formed or given enough time to fully form.
I don't know. I feel like the pressure of the situation is enough for anyone to just snap. I mean...
Yeah, but that's the thing. I wasn't sure whether it was the pressure of the situation or whether he actually felt like that about his wife.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. But I think you're sort of left to think about whether or not he is actually saying those things and has done it. So it kind of makes
sense. Because he does choke his wife out eventually.
Yeah, he
but that's kind of more of like it's kind of more of a psychological snap on his part.
Yeah.
And we get a big tongue again.
Oh,
which is a recurring.
I found that quite disturbing when I saw that.
Do you guys know whether they have planned it intentionally like that, where it's like one lead to the next? Obviously, I don't think so.
I assume so, but I don't think. The third one didn't have a big tongue in it, did it? Maybe Takashi Miike didn't read an email or something. He doesn't seem like a guy that's easy to reach via email. I don't know.
Takashi Miike kind of just does whatever. I think. I'm not sure how much thought went into the order of these films. Because the first two are definitely... the first one's pretty... It's modestly paced, where cut is very intense, and it does culminate with the death of the stranger, who does go out in a pretty Looney Tunes manner. He just like trips on the wife's ring, and he gets his neck chewed out by her. But that was cool. I enjoyed that a lot. It's just, just overall with all three of the films, I forget how well shot these are all like very well made films with very good production values. Because, anthologies for me, I enjoy anthologies a lot. I have a guilty pleasure for even some of the bad horror ones, but they're usually more for sort of like an experimental, low budget kind of excuse, whereas these ones don't seem like they were that low budget. So
I felt like they got a
cool
full movie budget, so therefore it felt like you're watching a full-on movie versus it's a short.
Yeah. And I thought that was really cool. Yeah, it's a good way to market like short films. Yeah,
indeed. Yeah, I think it comes down to the skill of the crew as well, and the vision behind it, which I guess leads us to our third and final film in this anthology. It's called Box, directed by the legendary Takashi Miike. So the setup for this one is Kyoko. She's a successful novelist, but she is plagued by nightmares of a childhood accident in which her twin sister Shoko died. This one is probably the most kind of mindfucky kind of film.
Yeah, it's not reality. This one, is very. It's interesting with this one. Out of the three, when I first watched Three Extremes years and years ago, and I would always forget what this one was about or what happened in this one. To me, this was always the weakest one whenever I thought of the Three Extremes, because its pacing is really slow. But upon rewatching it yesterday, I found myself, at a different stage of my life and more of a knowledge of this sort of metaphysical kind of cinema. And I think I appreciate it a lot more. And I find it maybe the most disturbing out of the three. Because we talked about Cut before. That's the most viscerally intense one. But I find that one to be the least disturbing of the three. Whereas this one, the themes that it deals with is whether or not we want to censor ourselves for saying, but there is, grooming is there. And just a lot of messed up shit. And that stuff sort of gets to me when I think of disturbing stuff, because it does involve someone of power taking advantage of young girls to that, I guess, sexual extent, which you don't see in this film, which is, I guess...
It was implied.
Restraint. Yeah, it's implied. I think even Miike was probably like, I better not do that. But good on him.
It's funny because, despite this being part of the Three Extreme series, this is probably the least extreme Miike film I've ever seen.
Maybe. Yeah.
I didn't feel like it was extreme. I think it depends on how you see, the last shot was done more of like a horror movie-esque, then it would have been extreme. I thought how they handled it was very mild.
Yeah, it was very restrained for a Miike endeavor. I feel like if it was a feature Miike film, it would have shown everything.
I know, there's some pretty interesting visual metaphors, because the story is that Kyoko, she's a famous 25-year-old author, and she comes across a guy who is sort of like a doppelganger or looks the same as, the man who was in charge of her as a kid with her twin. And they were circus performers, but he was having an affair with Shoko, and that got Kyoko really jealous. But there's a sequence where I think she's sort of having a bit of sort of that trauma flashback where I guess the guardian is playing with a doll. And again, this is just the sound design and just the implications of the movement and the positioning of the doll as he is, I guess, playing with it. I'm tiptoeing a lot more than I am usually when it comes to talk about these things, but he's playing with the doll in suggestive ways, and there's just these creaks and cracks of the doll, and I actually found that quite eerie to watch. So I thought it was very effective in telling that story without having to resort to extreme graphic content, I guess. But I'm keen to hear what you guys think about this film.
Overall, I thought it was the weakest of the three, and it's one of those where I could see it why it's a short, because I thought it was very much like scene to scene to scene to scene to scene, and then the payoff. But there was no way in telling that the payoff was what was going to happen. There was no lead up to it per se.
And you still don't really know what happens, I guess. That's the way the film is structured, is it feels like a lot of dreams within dreams within dreams, to the point where you don't really know which is the reality or if any of it is a reality, which is an interesting way to tell a story. But it can make you feel like it's a bit lacking as well.
Yeah, I think the story and the narrative is probably the weakest out of the three. But this is, as the youngins say, this is a vibe movie. There's a lot of very cool production design, more than I remember in this film. I quite like the slow pace, I guess, imagery and cinematography that you see. This is more in line with maybe classic Japanese cinema, where it's, you know, a lot of long shots are quite still, a lot of quiets, yeah. And I think that's those things maybe when I didn't appreciate it as much is what made me forget the events of this short. Because as Carl said, it does feel very scene to scene to scene. But I think I always watch this one from like on a new day, like at the start of it, and then I can really like soak in what's going on. In terms of its story, like it's quite easy to sort of follow what happens, but the end is inconclusive, and I'm not sure if I still really like the ending. It is a little bit of a cop out. It was just a dream thing, which is, you know, it's still fucked up because he's sleeping with them because they're implied to be conjoined twins. But I don't know how that works if it's because one's younger and she's just 25. But
see, yeah, I thought that was a dream as well. You know, like, because it's a situation that can't really happen. So I just this is just another part of the dream. Like the whole thing kind of felt like a fever dream, which is, you know, it's good. You know, there's a time and place for it, I guess, but you kind of do have to be in a mood to watch this kind of film, I feel.
This is much more moody, this film, yeah.
And there's a lot of strong imagery as well. Like you said, him playing, like the close-up of him playing with the doll. I think even like the weird circus situation that they've got going on there, just the grimmest circus that you've ever been to. Like that's weird. So yeah, like there's a lot of beautiful shots as well, especially like the exterior shots I found like really nice, even though in the context of the film is quite dark. It's a very pretty and eerie film, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, perhaps a little bit narratively weak.
Yeah.
There's one bit which I found particularly creepy because this one is easily the most horror-centric one.
Yes.
It's when the twin sister ghost is in the box and she's sort of peering out and she's burnt, but you don't see her full face. It's just the eye peering, and that's creepy. Yeah, that'd freak me the fuck out. Yeah. If I ever saw that, I'm out, I'm gone.
And I do think the box itself is kind of a good representation of another common theme in Japanese cinema is just like locking away your feelings in a box, I guess. Like all your guilt, all your trauma, all that stuff, they can go in the box. Yeah. So I think each of these films kind of explores a theme that is quite prevalent in that part of the world, which I found really interesting.
Well, how do you think this movie explores the Japanese aesthetic? Because we talked about Han in Cut, which is well and truly there, and then we talked about the Hong Kong aesthetic of the whispers from the apartment and the challenge of, you know, the medicine and trying to stay young, which is not exclusive. But what do you think makes this distinctly Japanese?
I think it's the repression of feeling, because all throughout that short, you can see the main character, like, it's very reserved, very like tense and such. Whereas like, yeah, that feels very much of Japanese, at least compared to other of the East Asian culture where they're more repressed. Yeah. And the fact that, you know, everything sounds like, oh, it's a box, and what do you put in the box? In this instant, is like putting away the feelings of like hate or like jealousy of stuff that you had for like your twin sister kind of thing.
Yeah.
Know your secrets as well.
Yeah.
You know, in the box. I think that and loneliness is probably a big part of this film. Like compared to the other films, like the character of Kyoko in this film feels very lonely. I think just the way that the film is designed, where there's a lot of open space to any character that's on the scene, that as well is a very Japanese theme.
Yeah. For me, what initially stands out, I guess it is from a technical level, just the cinematic style. It's very much in terms of its color grading, that sort of bluish.
Grim, yeah.
A lot of blues in the highlights and in the shadows. So it feels quite dreamlike. A lot of the midtones have sort of like a glow to them. And it's just a very popular Japanese aesthetic.
Yes.
But it's interesting when you bring up the whole bottling of, you know, the jealousy of the sister, and why I think this makes this film more fucked up is Kyoko, who feels all this regret and guilt over the jealousy of love for an older man who clearly shouldn't be doing what he's doing, you know, sleeping with a 10-year-old child. And that is not even registering to her. that that's wrong. That's just sort of the fact that that's what happened, where it does illustrate that sort of malignant societal norm of older male salarymen dating younger girls, because that's just a thing. You know, if you know about like the whole Enyo Kosai kind of thing, where high school girls will advertise themselves to get paid to hang out with older men. And that's just a thing that happens there. And I guess maybe to a lesser extent, the maid cafes, you know, it's all cute and all, and it can be fun, but the underlying, I guess, primitive value of what is there is that insidious aspect of Japanese society. And I think, I don't think Miike is even trying to illustrate that in this film. That's just the story, and it's disturbing.
It's almost like a cultural norm in a way. Like I know, Kyle, you've talked about like Memoirs of a Geisha with a previous guest. Kind of that situation. Right?
Yeah. I almost felt like she, or like in the short, it was almost at that scene of the circus master and the little girl, the sister, sleeping together. It felt to me like, oh, I wish, why couldn't it be me instead? That kind of vibe.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's messed up.
Yeah, that's messed up.
Yeah.
And it sort of goes into whether this is related or not. I've brought this up on the podcast a lot, the romanticization of teacher character and student. It's a trope that happens a lot in Japan, where a student has a romantic interest in the teacher, and the teacher sort of plays it off as kind of like a meet cute kind of thing. But the fact that this is sort of seen as a cultural norm, I find it's disturbing. And maybe this is the Western part of me that doesn't understand where that comes from or want to understand where that comes from. So I think that's where this one sort of lies more like disturbing for me.
Yeah. It's an interesting argument that's kind of surfaced a bit more as like anime culture as well has become a bit more mainstream in the West. Is kind of like it's kind of Japan being Japan, but it's like the bad side of Japan being Japan in a way.
Because everyone knows I don't like censorship. Like I think you should express how you want and what you want. Obviously, and again, this might sound hypocritical. There's limits, you know,
and everyone has a different limit. I think.
Yeah.
Like we talked about Dandadan fairly recently as well. Yeah. And I've been seeing a lot of content about people that have like just turned off Dandadan because some of the scenes there are just a bit too much. And that's fine. I think like, you know, enjoy what you want to enjoy. This is art, right? It's an avenue of expression.
Well, I guess it's making you ask questions, right? I mean, it's why three of us are here and we can discuss these heavy topics because what is presented in these three films is not an answer. It is the situation with the themes. And I think that's what makes the three of these films as an anthology work really well. It's not necessarily the scariest horror film I've seen, but it doesn't really need to be. I think in the sense that there's something that's in these genre pieces that allows us to have a discussion about these dark topics and these dark thoughts that happen in humans. I think it's great because we can have these discussions, you know.
And as a film overall, Kyle, like how did you find this experience?
I really enjoyed the film and watching it as a whole because I went in with an open mind, or I knew about the movie itself. Like before you recommended me, I'm familiar with like, oh, there's a thing like this. But I never looked into like what it's about. Like someone told me like, oh, cool. And then I forgot about it. And then now I'm watching it. It's like, yeah, pretty cool. Cause I also didn't go into where like I read the Wikipedia, know what it's about. I went with a fresh mind where I'm guilty of a lot of time where I just read the Wikipedia thing rather than watching a lot of things. But for this one, I kind of like intentionally, because I know I wanted to have a like fresh set of eyes and also don't know what to expect and to have a full review of it. So I did that and it ended up really good. Whereas like, yeah, there are points in the movie with the different shorts where like it's what I expected, but there's a lot of stuff that I like, wow, I did not expect that. Or like it's a nice sequence or a nice like way they did things that like I really appreciate. And overall, I did appreciate how much of like the lighting in these movies are so much better than what we have these days. But that's another whole topic as a whole.
Yeah, definitely. I can tell you that. It's called red cameras and just using LUTs. But that's I think this does harken back to a day in the 2000s where you had to be a bit more traditionalist in how you light things because you didn't have as much freedom to do stuff in post. But it gives it this charm. And
like I just want to see people's faces and be able to see their eyes and be able to see their mouths moving rather than the whole scene being dark as hell. Like that's just so annoying.
But you got the details of the blacks though. You get the HDR. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, it does get a bit grating.
Tired of the Netflix haze.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, this kind of cinema still exists. You know, Park Chan-wook has a movie coming out, as mentioned, and that seems to be going well with the critics. So
yeah, were you disturbed by these movies at all?
I don't think I was disturbed at all because I feel like outside of this anthology of shorts, I think with respective to Hong Kong cinema, Korean cinema, and Japanese cinema, there are way more disturbing horror movies out there that, you know, it's more gory or whatever. I mean, heck, even Parasite was more like disturbing, right? In a sense.
In its themes, yeah. If you were a guy recommending kind of like a general smorgasbord of Asian cinema, would this be a film that you would recommend?
I think it's a good primer of what each area of Asian cinema could be in terms of specifically the horror genre. So I think it would be good kind of intro or like kind of like a taster for people if they really want to get into it, like even if they're not into horror, because I think if they are into horror, if they watch it, they'll be like, okay, so but I could see that in like the full like feature films that are horror from these areas, but still be nice to see what directors are trying to do with their perspective. But overall, I think it could lead to people searching for other things as well. Like I think,
yeah, definitely.
Like I think with these anthology, if it's showcasing specific like for this one, there's like Hong Kong director and stuff where during the time it's already kind of past the golden era of Korean cinema. It allows people to check out Hong Kong cinema. But for the first one, I know that they also had like a Thai director, so they can use that as a jumping board to check out Thai cinema, which is a whole different beast as its own within like Asian cinema, specifically Southeast Asian cinema.
Yeah. I've been watching a lot of Thai movies recently. There's a couple of Thai anthology films, the Phobia series, as they're called, and they're a lot less in their production values compared to these three, but I think they're very fun experimental films as well. Yeah, but yeah, Thai cinema is starting to have its own distinct flavor to it as well, which I enjoy. Yeah.
I think they definitely do. Even Indonesian horror as well feels very different.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of, like Kyle said, the strength of this film is each of the films in this anthology feels very distinct in terms of its execution, but also in the themes that are explored. Yeah. They feel very closely ingrained in the identity of that country's cinema. So, yeah, I really enjoyed watching this again. It's great.
Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah.
People should check it out. Yeah.
All right. Shall we ruin it by making a Hollywood remake of this, of this anthology?
The Disney Hollywood remake.
Shall we start with Dumplings first? Kyle, did you have any first picks for Western director for Dumplings?
Western directors, I think as a general, I think all three, we could just let Jordan Peele do it.
Oh, Jordan Peele.
He could definitely do something like this.
He could do it, but it could still be a bad remake. It's based on who you choose for the actors. I think I go with that perspective.
Jordan Peele with a lot of studio interference.
Yeah.
Spike Lee. He already did Old Boy. Yes. Spike Lee would do Cut, right?
Oh, yeah.
Even good directors can make bad films.
I know we started with Dumpling, but yeah, Spike Lee would do Cut and Lee Byung-hun was played by Josh Brolin.
Oh, yeah. Another director could either be Quentin Tarantino.
Which one would Quentin Tarantino do?
I'll just say Dumplings because of the fact that
I think he could do Dumplings, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know, his hate for Bruce Lee, I don't know how much like love he has for Hong Kong cinema.
Oh, yeah.
He does hate Bruce Lee, doesn't he?
He does hate Bruce Lee, yeah. It's funny because he said like he loved it until we watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and this is like, damn, man.
If Quentin Tarantino did Dumplings, instead of fetuses, the filling would just be feet, I reckon.
Yeah.
Use the magical healing power of feet.
Because I know he has his like male muses now that he often works with. It's like DiCaprio.
Yeah.
So would DiCaprio just be Tony Leung's character? Or would it just be gender swapped?
I think Leo would work well, like the husband that's cheating as well. I think Leo could play it.
He always wants younger girls as well.
That's true.
So it's just like it's not even. He's just playing DiCaprio. You'd probably get maybe like Margaret Qualley to play one of the lead characters, though she's not aging.
Oh, I mean, it
but,
could be
yeah.
like a substance situation where,
Yeah, that's true.
you know, pre-eating the dumplings, it's Demi Moore, and post-eating the dumplings, it's Margaret Qualley. I feel like an American remake would be less subtle about the transformation.
I think so,
mean?
yeah.
I
It'd
think
be
so.
more like
True.
It would be more of
substance.
it.
I think they
Yeah,
would put
yeah,
on
yeah.
the fake nose, prosthetic, all that stuff, and then age it down or do
Yeah,
AI. But I think for the main character for Dumpling for myself, I would pick for the female either Emma Stone or Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, that's a good choice. Yeah, this makes sense.
Both are not old, but like they're kind of getting to the age, right? Where they're starting to think about it.
I mean, the actress when she was playing Mrs. Lee, she was only like 31 or 30.
I thought they cast it wrong. In a sense, I'm not saying it's bad, but I think they miscast it.
Should have been older.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
I think
Yeah.
it could have
I thought she
been.
was alright.
They could have went older.
Okay, yeah.
Because if people were aware of like the times of who she is as well, like as a professional like entertainer, she's not at that point. Of course, I'm not saying that she has to play according to where her life stage at, but I thought it would be more interesting if really like someone already up there and playing and aged down.
Yeah. It's kind of like,
make more
like
Like Demi Moore in
Demi
The
Moore in The
Substance.
Substance, yeah.
Yeah, she was that was the perfect time for her to make that movie, I feel. But what food would it be rather than dumplings? Because they wouldn't make it dumplings, would they?
it had to be some kind of health food, right?
But still with human meat in it?
Something with matcha, something with avocado.
Avocado.
something. But then the US, they're creepy about like meat if it's not a burger or like sausage.
Oh,
So
do you
it's
think it
gonna-
would be like that faux vegan meat, but it's not really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or like it's a sausage, but inside the sausage is just grinded up like
Feet.
human meat. That
Yeah.
they sell it as it's actually vegan and it's like soy product or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's playing the Aunt May character? The dodgy
Ooh, what actor would play Aunt May?
Marissa Tomei, because she's already played Aunt May in Spider-Man.
I thought of the
Yes.
same thing. I thought of the same thing actually, and she would rock it because she's in her later age and she still
She looks
great.
like somebody that's been eating fetus dumplings.
The fetus dumplings, I think so.
I think that's a perfect casting.
Yeah. Nice.
I think for the company to make it, it's gotta be A24
Yeah.
A24, yeah.
because they are the only ones that's willing to make things like these at this point.
They did
A24 or Neon, I would say.
who
Yeah.
did that Yorgos Lanthimos
Neon-
anthology recently, Kinds of Kindness? Was that A24?
I think it's A24. I think it's
Yeah.
A24.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they are the only ones that are willing to not do non-IP or sequels at this point.
Mm-mm.
And an anthology in general is a tough sell for
Oh yeah.
Hollywood, I feel.
When was the last big anthology though?
Probably Kinds of Kindness.
Most often they're like TV kind of stuff.
I know the Coen brothers did one
Oh, okay.
about all the Westerns, but not a lot of people talk about it. So I can't say that there was a big anthology
I guess
movie that people talk about.
I haven't seen it, but is American Horror Story kind of an anthology? Or is it's more
Each
of like a
season is different.
limited series?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who will play in Cut?
Yeah, what about Cut?
We said Spike Lee because he did Old Boy, so he'll do
I think it'll be even more meta if he plays the director,
Yeah. Who would play the wife?
Viola Davis.
Viola Davis.
Oh, it should be so good.
Yeah, no, she'd be like snotting all over the place.
You got to get someone that can do a lot of eye acting.
Who would be the stranger? It'd have to be a white guy.
Yeah.
We're going-
For Spike
yeah,
Lee,
just-
it gotta be a white guy. Who he uses as a white guy though, normally.
Oh, I don't know. It had to be an unremarkable looking white guy.
Well, who's the guy that played the bad guy in Old Boy? What's his name again? South African dude?
Sharto Copley.
Shutter Copley, you know? It'd be great.
He plays Sharto Copley again. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
I would watch that. to be
He
fair.
overacts a lot. Yeah. I enjoyed him the most in the Old Boy remake because
Yeah.
it was just so silly. Yeah. Horrible film though.
I'm
Yeah.
surprised Spike Lee did Old Boy, honestly.
Yeah, it's an odd
it was
an
probably a
odd
nice
choice.
paycheck.
Yeah. I don't think it's by choice.
studio pick, I reckon.
Yeah.
What made them want him of all people?
That's
question.
honestly a very good question, Carl, that I don't think I have the answer to.
When I think Old Boy, I would have thought like they would have thought about doing Quentin style. Not saying that
I don't know much about the production of that remake, but I feel like they probably got the rights and then the rights were going to expire. So they had to slap something together. Like that's how that movie kind of feels to me. All right, what about Box? Who are we getting for Box?
I think that's the hardest to think about, honestly.
You'd probably get like Mike Flanagan or something. He's like a pretty hot up-and-coming horror director. I mean, not up-and-coming anymore. He's like one of the more revered ones. Some of the other popular horror directors, Scott Derrickson.
Scott Derrickson would be all right.
Or the guy that did Weapons and Barbarian.
Zach Kreger.
Good. Yeah. Mike Flanagan has the dramatic side to him. He can do family drama pretty well. Well, there's not any family drama. Well,
there's a bit of family drama in this one.
I guess not on this. There's a little bit of it. Think about it. Yeah. So maybe Mike Flanagan. Yeah. And I don't know, 25-year-old novelist. Maybe just get Jenna Ortega, I guess. I usually just put her in everything. I don't know. Who do you guys think, though?
Who do they put in every movie now these days?
Yeah, you'd kind of want to get a high-profile scream queen just to get butts in seats.
Yeah, I think so.
Or you need to get a sinister male presence in there to play the circus dude.
Ethan Hawke.
Oh,
if it was Scott Derrickson.
It's a good choice.
Ethan Hawke could do it. And the twin sisters. There are no really famous twins these days.
You need to get someone that's good at ballet as well.
do we want to bring back the Olsen twins, even though they're too old for it?
Yeah.
If you de-age them.
But I mean, I think for female leads, we want to make a really bad one. I think we just pick like the ones that are like right off finishing up Disney.
Who's that lady that's in every Netflix rom-com? I forget her name, but she's in
Vanessa Hudgens.
No. She's in a lot. She's in that movie Carry On. She's in My Oxford Year. You've definitely seen her. She looks the same in every movie.
You watch a lot of Netflix rom-coms, huh?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do watch a lot of them. Not always by choice, but Sophia Carson is her name.
I was thinking actually, and now that you're talking about the Netflix rom-com, I would think Miranda Cosgrove.
What's she
I don't know who that is.
I've definitely seen her.
Yeah, Miranda has a new rom-com on Netflix called The Wrong Paris. I think you'll enjoy that.
The Wrong Paris. Did I start watching? I've watched that.
Oh, is that because it's Paris, Texas, right?
Oh, no, I haven't watched that. I've watched that running in the background. Yeah, that looked... my wife watched it. She said it wasn't very good. It's the only time I've seen her get upset about cinematography is after she watched The Wrong Paris.
She had issue with the cinematography?
Yes. It's a very specific thing to arc up about.
Wow.
That's quite funny.
How could they get that wrong, though? It's a Netflix rom-com. Like, cinematography should not be an issue.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
I have to watch a trailer of this movie to see. I'm very curious.
I think I know what she's referring to, but I thought it was in line to what you expect from a rom-com made by Netflix.
Yeah, and it's kind of about reality TV as well. So there is that element where like the cinematography is supposed to be bad, I guess, but also it's just bad.
Yes. So you're going to get that same cinematographer
to do Box.
To ruin Box. The absolutely like something completely gorgeous. And it's like, yeah, just get that.
Bring in the cinematographer for Love is Blind. There you go.
I think there's just several cinematographers for Love is Blind.
I don't think there is any cinematographer. I think there's just they just do whatever.
Yeah, I've got a Sony somewhere. It's like, yeah, cool. Yeah, you're hired.
We just need to
slap on the Netflix
record some talking heads.
Nice. Yep, I think we've got our 3. I'd green like that.
Yeah, and you can watch it on Netflix when it comes out.
Yeah, produced by A24, released straight to streaming on Netflix.
Actually, the company that should be making it is all the streamers, like Hulu, to Amazon, Netflix, HBO Max.
Just a cross-platform extravaganza.
I actually feel like this would be an Amazon Prime show somehow. Yeah. I don't know why. But I feel like this is more an Amazon Prime thing.
Yes, this is not going to be good. It can't be on Apple TV because whatever they do, they're going to put a lot of money on it. No one's going to watch it, but it's going to be good.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll pitch it to whoever, and whoever picks it up first will will take their money.
Yeah. Hey, man, money's money, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, money's money.
Nice one. All right, cool. We're up to the plug portion of the show, Kyle. So for the listeners of our show, where can people find you?
First and foremost, thank you for having me on. It was a blast. And make sure to catch Two Asian Blokes on my podcast, What Kind of Asian Pod. When it comes out, it should come out on the same week as this episode that you're hearing right now. So hopefully you check that out too. And if you want to find the podcast, find us on all streaming platforms at What Kind of Asian Are You Podcast. You can find it. And for Instagram, you can find us on What Kind of Asian Pod. I'm sure there'll be links and everything in the bio and all that stuff. So again, thank you so much for having me on. And it was a fun chat.
No, it's great to have you on. We love spreading the good word of Asian cinema.
Yeah.
Whether it's cult or not cult. Well, we've all up until this point, we've only done like cult films. I'm sure we'll do a nice one at some point where it's not disturbing, but that's okay.
No, thank you so much for joining us, Kyle, and for sharing your movie viewing experience with us and for sharing your story with us. Yeah, it's always fun talking about movies and stuff. So we're really glad to have you on the show. And hopefully it won't be the last you hear from this collaboration.
For sure.
Maybe you'll check out our anthology series coming to Apple TV soon.
Yeah.
But until then, thank you for joining us, as always. Hope you're having a good spooky season, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.
We'll see you later.
All right. Bye-bye.